Okay. Probably you know it's low.
You're alive. Well, there's a little bit of a delay, but.
How do we see if anyone's watching? Oh, 0 viewers.
And you can't watch this back, can you? So no one's ever going to see
You
this.
can.
Oh, you can?
Oh shit, you can't.
Oh. I couldn't do that because then I would have watched more takes. Because I'm like, oh, I missed it.
I didn't know you could actually.
Yeah, you can.
So my opening point will be forget Tinder, Grindr all the way. It's so much better than Tinder, guys. Come on. I think we should be having a different debate right now. No, it's like the model includes Grindr as well as Tinder. Yeah, like as the model proposes, Grindr, Tinder, same thing. Interchangeable phrase, interchangeable. Whatever you're into. Older kids. No.
Kids.
They're all the first.
Oh, actually, you guys also have to turn on the camera.
Oh, jeez.
There's another one. Of course, we need to know.
One is two. One's for YouTube, but the other one's also for YouTube.
So we got like.
We're great.
This is you. This is you talking right now.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, there's a delay.
Ah!
Let's watch ourselves. This is so exciting.
Which one's glasses for the officers? You're just like, yeah. I'll just leave it. That's just being like
water or a jug. Did you get a jug or anything?
So try to what? You just put a
No, he's gone.
Live on air. Oh man. Oh boy. Oh, actually, maybe that's it. I'm gonna put up a sheet.
Oh, there's the other one.
Do you want light one?
Yeah, I don't care. I've used that one before though. Okay. I don't mind. It'd be really funny when you're going to take you the same thing.
What? Because the webcams are enabled on top.
Nowhere else.
Like, just bring people to sit aside and they'll help you with life. Yeah, if somebody's not
Yeah. Are you guys sitting in the seats? No, we got I don't want to sit in here. It's all this. Yeah, these are for me. Make a motion.
No, I got it. There's no, I have to get a memory card. Hold on for camera.
Sorry.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, right to the This is the 8th year.
Yeah. It's like all the
Why do we have the biggest color box? Yeah. Oh, where's the... It's like last year.
Okay, guys, you're very welcome to our chamber this Thursday for a very special debate run entirely by Phil Freshers, which is what we call the Exec. So you're very welcome, and we'll have a wonderful evening here. The motion for the House tonight is this House welcomes the rise of Tinder. So without further ado, I'm going to call on our registrar for the evening, Darren, to read the last private business meeting.
On the 19th of February 2015, with President Sarah Mortel in the chair. The minutes were read and signed without objection. There were no fines, no questions, and no reports to be read. There were no motions on notice and no motions not on notice. Freshers, freshers, freshers. It's not to think it was only September that we became part of the Phil. When I joined the Phil, people kept asking me, was I red or blue? Was I red, blue, red? And I just was like, I just thought I was like a shade of a peachy white. So we've all had that moment, all us freshers, that moment of realization that yes, we were now definitely part of the Phil. So for me, it was ending up quite intoxicated in Ashton Crab's apartment. And on hearing that Hannah Bresford had entered the vicinity, I sprinted topless in order to say hey. It was the morning after maidens also where I woke up next to Conan Quinn. Before he even opened his eyes, he just kind of shrugged and was like, gross. For Matthew and Miles, it was ending up shirtless with Conan again. Singing Someone Like You by Adele in his kitchen after the UCD IV. For Sarah, her moment of initiation was when we found her taking a quiet nap, KO'd on the floor of a locked bathroom cubicle, pinned out of her mind, and we walked her home, her expression as angry as could possibly be, saying over and over again how she hated Toshi and wanted to remove herself permanently from the grid. For Catherine Pacifica, it was walking into Doyle's to find her three busy mates, Carrie, Mike, and Claire, simultaneously shifting people on all three walls of leaving her totally alone with zero mates. Carrie was a quintuple date with Strong. Keelan was 4 a.m. trip to the takeaway to get a battered sausage. Michaela losing her beloved coat. Spewing champagne across every single inhabitant of the hostels in Galway. When Ono Gorman was voted most likely to be shit crap. Christopher Costigan's moment of initiation was shifting someone so passionately and aggressively that he knocked over an entire Christmas tree. Oh, freshers, we've all grown up a little bit together. We have cut down our vocabulary of adverbs to just fair, problematic, and gas. And we're all much more unified now. Like, we all think that our friends who are off the grid think that certain scandals, like us, like screaming hysterically, being like, "Oh my God, Mike Dolan posted a picture of a shovel." They don't care, but really they think our behavior is verging on like somewhat psychopathic. We all envy the potential offspring of Jenny and Manus. We all have a little crush on Matthew Newton. We all have the number one fear of being called out on a false narrative. And how can we forget we have all replaced most of the liquid component of our diets with naggins, bazaar, and club orange. Most of all, we have all become some weird, incestuous family with a proud and often bewildered mother, Hannah Bresser. Really, no further business, the meeting adjourned.
Mr. Treasurer, are there any fines?
Yes, there are fines. We would like to impose a fine of 100 florins on Chloe O'Reilly for non-attendance.
Duly noted, okay. Madam Secretary, are there any reports to be read?
There are no reports to be read.
Time for questions is now open.
Madam Secretary, are there any motions on notice?
There are no motions on notice.
Madam Secretary, are there any motions not on notice?
There are no motions not on notice.
Time for questions is now closed.
Okay, so now we move on to general business. Are there any motions to be raised in general business this evening?
Privilege motion number 5, that the President may leave the chair and Ms. Hannah Beresford, Vice President, may take it. Proposed, Ronald Nivranon, Ordinary Member.
Seconded, Emily Costello, Ordinary Member.
Motion number 6, to congratulate Matthew Collins, Chris Coskin, Liam Hunt, Gavin Tucker for all reaching the final of the Irish Mace, and Izzy Sweeney and Aisling Foster for reaching the novice final of the Irish Mace. Proposed by Ciara Haley, Ordinary Member.
Seconded, Mike Dolan, Ordinary Member.
Motion number 6, motion of congratulations to the council and officers of the 330th session for winning Best Large Society at last night's CSC Awards. Proposed, P. Murphy, XMC, X. Braham. Anyone
motion number 8, motion to form a subcommittee. So the HMCs of the 330th session are proposing the official forming of the Electoral Oversight Committee, or EOC, to conduct elections for the 331st session. So the EOC will consist of, in the chair, me, Rosalind Newman, ex-president, ex-secretary, ex-VP, HMC. Our enforcement officer, aka SVP of Discipline, will be Cormac Shine, ex-registrar, HMC. Our appeals manager will be Paul Bean, ex-treasurer, HMC. Our polling manager will be Sophie Madden, ex-SMC, HMC. Our count managers will be Brian Higgins, ex-treasurer, HMC, and Andrew Lynn, ex-schools convener, HMC. Our communications and marketing managers will be African Creon, ex-librarian, HMC, and Andrew Murphy, ex-librarian, HMC. ENTS officers, Lily McKillop, ex-steward HMC, and Paddy Clement, ex-steward HMC. Washington correspondent, Ronan O'Connor, ex-steward HMC. Asian correspondent, George Tyler, ex-VP HMC. And then our quality control officers will be Anna Olivia Hickey, ex-MC extraordinary member, and Turlock Heffernan, ex-Brown extraordinary member. And I don't think that's anyone else. No, great. So proposed, Rosalind Hulawan, ex-president, ex-secretary, ex-VP HMC.
Seconded, George Tyler, ex-VP HMC.
Are there any other motions to be raised in this very long general business? Okay, there being none, I call this part of the meeting adjourned and will return in just a few moments for
The paper keeps falling.
I mean, is it just flop down or is the whole thing?
The whole thing is falling. Can we minimize it? Do we have off the second scale from one show? Hang on. Give me a page.
We get some tape. Get some good tape.
Yeah.
What are your favorite ones?
Radio, I now call it on the register to read the minutes of the last public business meeting.
An ordinary public business meeting of the University Philosophical Society was held on the 19th of February 2015 with Gideon Rockman as the chair. The
place 2 weeks ago, and some of Yale's finest and most privileged minds came over to tell us what the American dream was for everyone, provided you could afford $250,000 education. It was their dream, goddammit, and no one else's, and those Mexicans could stay right where they were. Something stealing our jobs, something ghettoization, something the American dream, something. I stole this line from a UK brochure. You'd think that as a Irish and runner-up, well done, would be able to articulate better than two words strung together. We had the wonderful Hannah Beresford retreat at the spectacle of her practically Ironmanning her way to best speaker. You'd think we'd peaked, that racism was enough for this chamber to handle. Except then, when justifying the call, the chair did this really inexplicable thing, where she spoke only to the female speakers and told them that they should raise their voices. We assumed not loud enough that they would threaten any men in the room, and told them that they were probably too flabby in their speeches. But it's okay, it's definitely not sexist, because she made a joke about male impotence, and she was shared the day before. The following week, the internal freshers competition at Happy's took place with this really attractive bunch of people I definitely don't know, descending on the DIB. These 8 speakers answered important questions like, what is love? How deep is your love? And do boys really only want love if it's torture? Declaring in on spotting a blank space in the opposition's argument, which was rising up to get the best POI I've ever seen. Tom Antoine confessing what was supposed to be his attraction to trees, not really sure. Curious strong advocation of the shift and drift. And Sam looking for wide-scale utility in all reasonable decisions we make, which is actually quite ironic because we've got lots of great utility in the romantic kind later that night. I'm told there was a black half in this debate, but I wasn't really sure because something went down on a certain Facebook page and everybody was glued to their phone. So special shout out to my boys Chris and Matthew, who are this duo that seem terrifyingly confident. Except then they go up and turn up to a semi-final of the Irish Makes in black tie, which you think, given Matthew's ability to rock a quiff and an excellent tux, shouldn't be a problem. But no one else did. They proceeded to do a striptease of shame, wearing bow ties and tux jackets like it was nobody's business. I don't know why anyone respects them or something. There being no further business, meeting adjourned.
Record of the last public business meeting. There being none, actually. Okay, guys, so welcome to Phil this evening on what is just an incredibly special night. I'm so excited and also a little bit nervous in that we're all being shown up massively, and everyone on council has suddenly realised that people who've never done this before are smarter, better at organising themselves, and also just better dressed than any of us have ever hoped to be. So the motion before us is this House would welcome the rise of Tinder, following on in our strong tradition of talking about the most important social issues of our time. And this is really the stuff that keeps me awake at night. I'm glad that someone has finally been answering this question for me. And I perhaps will download the app during the course of the debate. There's some very good things tonight. So standing orders for this debate, speeches are a maximum of 7 minutes in length, and there will be protected time. So after the first minute of your speech, you'll hear a bell, which will sound like this. Unsurprisingly, at 6 minutes, you'll hear a bell that sounds pretty much exactly the same. If you want to hear that again, that's the bell noise for the debate generally. Then at 7 minutes, you hear a double bell, and then it's time to wrap up your speeches. Points of information can be offered from the floor, and from people within the debate as well. If you're refused, please do sit down, and it shouldn't be longer than 10 to 15 seconds in length. So audience participation is encouraged in both the points of information. If you really agree with something that you're hearing, feel free to say here, and if you disagree, feel free to say shame in a real guttural way. So our 3 returns are on your seats. If you fill those out for all the speakers, the guidance are there, and at the end of the debate, we'll people collecting them by the door. And that goes to measuring who's going to get the medal for archery, and the gold medal for archery at the end of the year. So without further ado then, we shall start the debate. So opening the debate on side proposition is the lovely Ashton Boyle, who is junior freshman, geography and politics. unless you choose to waive these rights. Would you like to waive them?
I'd happily waive them. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, tonight I'm going to be talking to you about three main points of why this House supports the rise of Tinder. So firstly, Tinder is a natural evolution in dating within our modern society. Secondly, Tinder doesn't offer us false promises. And thirdly, Tinder is safer than conventional methods of dating. So firstly, Tinder is a natural evolution in dating. So the rise of Tinder is not surprising, and online dating is definitely not a new phenomenon. Since the invention of the internet, online dating has existed. Before that, there were newspaper ads. Before that, there were matchmakers who did the job that Tinder does now. It's not surprising that we now have an app on which we can find dates, seeing there is now an app for basically everything. What may be surprising is the speed with which Tinder grew and how popular it is, especially among young people. While in the past it was thought that online dating was for sad 40 and 50-year-olds that had never found a partner, it is clear that this is no longer the case. Tinder is specifically aimed at a younger market. College students and those in their 20s make up most of the population of Tinder, and we can see this because you now have to pay more to use Tinder if you're over 28. So where EliteSingles.com might be the bottle of Merlot, Tinder is the Jaeger bomb, addictively simple, childishly appealing, and deliberately youthful. One reason why we on Spark would argue that Tinder is a natural evolution in our society is that everything is becoming more technological. When was the last time you didn't check your phone first thing in the morning or last thing at night? When is the last time you organised going out with your friends about a 200 message log, and that's conservative estimate, group chat on WhatsApp first? When is the last time you didn't have a good creep on someone's Facebook before going on a date with them? Tinder cuts out the need to act like you're ashamed for Facebook stalking someone. That's its purpose. Tinder lets you say, yeah, he's pretty hot, sure, I'll swipe right, see if we match, and then I can have a good creep on his Facebook before I agree to go out with him. Then, if judging by his Facebook profile and the messages he sends me, I can decide if I want to go out with him, or if I decide he's a prick, I can decide not to hook up with him. Just chatting to someone on Tinder doesn't put any onus on you to actually hook up with a person you matched with, and we think that's why it's become so popular, and why we would support the rise of Tinder. In the world we live in today, young people are under pressure to do well in college, to get the right work experience, to have a part-time job, to be involved with societies, all the while making sure you have enough time to be with your friends. With all this going on, where on earth are you going to find the time to find a boyfriend or girlfriend, or indeed, if you do find one, find the time necessary to spend with them? We can't all be Jenny and Max. That's why we think Tinder is so great. That's why we think Tinder is so great. It allows you to hook up with people and not have to spend all the extra time on a relationship. Sometimes quick and easy is all you need. Also, as our society progresses, the average age of marriage is going up and up. Realistically, whoever you get with in college is probably not going to be the person you end up marrying. So if there's a way for us to find people to hook up with more easily through Tinder, why shouldn't we go for it? Tinder is like a game. Much the opposite to the minefield that is 21st century relationship. It's free, easy, and convenient, and the prize you get at the end of it is a real-life date with a real-life person. We would argue also that Tinder helps with the feminist sexual revolution. What started with Jermaine Greer's The Female Eunuch has been expanded on lots since the 1970s, and we think Tinder provides a culmination to all of this. It's saying that yes, women can have sex with lots of guys if they want to, but they shouldn't be called a slut for doing so, and that they should be able to get married without being a virgin and not be thought of as impure for doing so. Tinder is designed with equality in mind. Women can be as judgmental as they like. Women are allowed to swipe right or left just as much as men, and women are able to make the first move and initiate the conversation. Tinder is taking down the social construct that men always need to make the first move. Women can do this just as well as men can, if not more effectively, and we're all for smashing the patriarchy any way we can. On another note, Tinder doesn't offer us any false promises. So my second point is that Tinder doesn't offer us false promises, unlike alcohol.
That tells us everything we need to know about this point. It features a flame rather than a heart. You're not disillusioned into thinking you're going to find your fairy tale Prince Charming through Tinder. It's all about a quick hookup, a burning passion that will probably die quite quickly. As I've already pointed out, sometimes all people want is a quick hookup. And if there is an app which can make this easier and possibly safer, as I'll talk about in my next point, I don't understand why we shouldn't go for it. Also, there seems to be an opinion about Tinder that it's the most shallow method of getting a date ever. While we agree that it is quite shallow to rate someone simply by what they look like, it's not really any different to how most shift and drift happens now. And in all fairness, if it's shift and drift you're looking for, you don't really need to know their life story. The first thing we notice about someone is how they look. Whether it's in a club or not, whether they're just a potential friend or a potential something more, we are a very shallow society. While we hopefully don't judge people based entirely on how they look, it is certainly a large element of initial attraction. So we think that swiping left and right to your heart's content is just fine. Realistically, you are going to have to talk to this person before you meet up, unless you both are really good at mind reading that is. So we think that you will be judging this person based on more than what they look like by the time you meet them. So my third point is that Tinder is safer than conventional methods. One argument often used against all types of online dating is that you don't know who you're talking to and that they could rape you or kidnap you when you meet up with them in real life. We think that this is not necessarily that much of a concern anymore due to the amount of information you can get about someone online before you meet up with them. While we acknowledge it is still a concern because some people edit their digital footprints, we think that meeting a random person at a club is actually more dangerous because you've had absolutely no contact with them before you met them, and you may not even know their name, let alone anything about them if anything was to go wrong. If you meet someone in a club, your only two options are to go home with them to an unknown destination or to give them your number and possibly gain yourself a stalker. There's nothing shadier than a back alley of a club. At least with Tinder, there's reliability, and you get to choose where and when you want to meet them, depending on what you're comfortable with. So I've talked to you about three main points today, which are why Tinder is a natural evolution in dating, why Tinder doesn't offer us false promises, and that Tinder is safer than conventional methods. And that's why we believe you should all swipe right. Thank
So basically, this is part of like a debating window with fines added. So you all think about every single like procedure, so you'll find sheets that have a big long list of things, and basically, if you did sneak your naggins into the chamber, it's when people say these words like such debating gems as patriarchy and insofar as other really key phrases for persuading people of anything. So you start drinking and like, you guys will be drinking as well. So then without further ado, thank Ashley for the kind words, and we call on Lee Eggleston, who is junior freshman law, to open the case for side opposition. Do you wish to waive your maiden's rights? Excellent. Guys, give me a round of applause.
Starting at the podium is notoriously snippy. I'm also very glad I decided to wear heels today and that I can actually see over it and see who I'm talking to. Okay, so yeah, we're going to be opposing Tinder, and like, before that, I just want to offer some refutation to some of the stuff Ashley said, because she talked about false promises. Look, Tinder has offered me a lot of false promises. Tinder has offered me a lot of letdowns for the 2 hours I was on it, strictly for research purposes. But yeah, like Mark was one of Dublin's most eligible bachelors. He promised me from his profile picture a whirlwind romance of pot noodle in a pool with a bottle of Jaeger. I'd be lying if I said I didn't debate just to drink anyway. So yeah, so Mark offered me like a world of romance in a pool with some Jaeger and pot noodle. And whilst I didn't get that, what I did get was a message saying, "Hey babe, winky face, you in college, want to meet up? Nudes." Full combo. So yeah, he offered me a lot of promises. Also,
whole safety thing we don't really buy, because I watched a lot of Catfish and that shit's scary as hell. We think that argument falls purely like due to that. Also, shift and drift, I just want to mention this, like, okay, so it's not necessary to know their life story. Being a proud country woman from Meath, like road frontage and the knowledge of that, like road frontage exists is essential. Like that's really important to me. Also, I'm taking off one of the things from Hannah's checklist of like make them laugh, mention you're from the country. Okay, yeah. So basically, all right. Okay, so basically what I want to talk about, like, seriously, is objectification and devaluing human connection. So first on objectification, if you think about it, Tinder is basically a catalogue of human beings. Like, you're sitting there, you're flicking right, you're flicking left, you're saying to yourself, you haven't started your timer yet. You're making assumptions based on a few pics and a bio, and a decision is almost solely based on their appearance. Like, it represents human beings as something that exists solely as an object, like designed or meant to serve another person's sexual pleasure. An enormous pack of cards. Like, you forget each one of these people is a human being, as I learned from sending them like various quotes from movies that were not quite nice. They were not nice at all. It was horrible. I'm sorry. I apologize to the men of Tinder. Like, it succumbs to the most superficial, undesirable qualities of human beings, like that need for instant gratification and our ability or our readiness to indulge in casual prejudice on the basis. I blame Dominic. Prejudice on the basis of someone's appearance, or like any number of arbitrary characteristics, be it height, be it age, be it skin color, be it weight, or whatever. Like, and so we have to ask ourselves what the effects are, like, of this for society, like, of objectification for women and for men. Yes, hell has frozen over. Me just talking about men and feminist extension. Like, women are made to feel valuable for how attractive we are to men, like, for this stupid, like, socially constructed norms, like how your thighs don't touch together, like, well done on that. Like, real life is completely different, where we can ignore this conditioning, like, and we often do, because chemistry can completely override what you've been socially, like, constructed and thinking is really attractive. But in the cold light of day, when you're flicking through Tinder, or maybe like 3 a.m. with a bottle of wine, I don't know where your life's at, like you can't necessarily override these social prejudices that have been constructed into you. On that point.
But yeah, I'll take a minute. But like in the dark of the club, when the chemistry's there, it's a little bit dangerous. Like, you might go for it, actually.
But would you not agree that like the majority of initial attraction is due to someone's looks?
We do think that, but we also think you're socially constructed into thinking that certain looks are like really, really important, or like that being blonde haired and blue eyed, or some thank you man for reinforcing my point. Like, that can be socially conditioned into Right, so yeah, like, you're socially conditioned into thinking a certain kind of attractive is what you want, and especially when you're sitting there in the cold light of day and you're flicking through a pack of cards and you're so desensitized as to what like human interaction actually is. Like, that's when you start buying into these stereotypes and buying into that narrative. Take a shot, anyone who's doing debating bingo. Please laugh at my jokes. I'm not pretty enough to carry up. I'm not funny. So please laugh at my jokes. So, like, this casual complicity, like, is extremely harmful behavior that is normalized even further as Tinder takes hold in our society. Because in order for Tinder to rise, in order for Tinder to be successful, like, we need to buy into this casual objectification. We need to sort of like engage in this narrative of social constructs of what's contracted. Like, it feeds into social norms of what we think we want, that we normally would be overridden by like a human connection. Like, it's a casual readiness for our propensity to prejudice, and it gets worse and worse as we get more and more comfortable with it, as we like go further into the Tinder sphere. So secondly, like, trivializing human relationships. Okay, there's nothing romantic about Tinder, like, whatsoever, nothing. I'm sorry, it's true. Please laugh. Was a strong opening statement from Eggleston. So as I've kind of said for the last, like, God knows how long, Tinder is an enormous catalogue of human beings. It's basically human snap. Like, the prize for me was like some creepy old dude wanting to know if I was in college, sweetheart. Also, please tip for the men out there, don't call girls what their fathers are liable to call them. It's really weird. It brings up some like Oedipal stuff that we're just not ready to deal with. So as I've kind of said, yeah, so like, Tinder is a factory. It is not even vaguely romantic. It is connection by the law of averages, by maths, by statistics, and I'm really sorry for the Hamilton heads out here who are really turned on by that shit. Everything's gone. I'm a one-can woman, I can't do shots. Tinder is an app that attempts to automate human interaction by like the swipe of a finger. It's flippant, it's cold, it's flaky, it's lazy. It's some heartless, machinated replication of human interaction that can only ever be a shadow of real life. It can't replace a written snappy phrase. So that flip in your stomach when you see them walk across the room, when your eyes meet across a chicken fillet roll in the buffet. Seriously. And like, we don't think it should replace that stuff. We don't think it turns the search for, like, we think it devalues romance. It turns the search for someone who will understand you and love you and put up with your incessant feminist rants, because that's kind of a thing, about the gender politics of the Smurfs, it's totally a thing, into a written paced video game that like you whip out when you're stuck on a level of Candy Crush. Like, it is a quickened, coarsened courtship that lacks any of the vulnerability or the thrill of real life, because Tinder completely negates the threat of being rejected. And people will say that's probably one of its strengths, but at the same time, like, the threat of being rejected makes you stronger, and it makes you savor love that bit more. Like, please, I'm being so sappy, I'm so sorry. I believe in love, guys, come on. Maybe don't hurt me anymore. Also because, like, you have to realize on Tinder, you ain't special. Like, you know, Paul from Newbridge is like talking to 8 or 10 other girls. Like, so like even the bad things, that rejection and stuff like that, it makes us value when we find something special like that bit more. Like, the pain of unrequited love makes romance real when we actually find it. Like, it's visceral and it's human and it's vulnerable, and we think it's like the rise of Tinder completely negates that. Like, without these things, these pains and these pleasures, we completely devalue romance. It's pointless. Humans are shit if we can't love each other. We beg to oppose.
I'll waive my rights. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen of the University Philosophical Society, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Con. I'm delighted to propose this motion here today. So I'm pretty new to this whole Tinder thing, but if it's taught me anything over the last week or so, it's pretty much lower your expectations in life. So like I'd like you all to like lower your expectations for my speech here as well today. So, thanks for that. Okay, so before we go on any further, I'd like to give a special shout out to all my Tinder matches in the audience. I'd like you all to know that I love you and appreciate you all equally. And there's also a few watching on the live stream as well. Also, like, I'd like you all, if you're using Tinder at the moment, to like turn down like your distance to like 1 kilometer, so you can like all match with like the Huns and Hunks and the GMB. I fully support that. I'm sure that Phil does too. So I'm going to talk about 2 main things: vanity and what are the alternatives. So that's what I'm going to talk about here today. So, like, right, when I realized I was picked to speak in this debate, I kind of figured I didn't really know much, so I decided to get Tinder for research purposes. And you know, what a week it's been. I mean, I'm never going to forget my first match, Courtney. We matched at 6 minutes past 6 on Saturday, February 28th. And this is like a really important milestone in my life. It really was one to tell the grandkids about. So she had such a great bio. It was like, she's looking for a long-term relationship ending in marriage, but she's also aware that no one will love her like the good Lord will. She went on to say then, if you're interested in dueling my heart, if you're interested in dueling Jesus from my heart and my hand, then swipe right, love heart, winky face. So I mean, how could I turn down an offer like that? So I mean, Tinder is great for friendship, flirting, and maybe more. I mean, I think the important thing is to not take Tinder too seriously. I think, you know, it's good fun if you're open-minded. I mean, like, there's a fair share of jokers on there just looking for a confidence boost, but there's also some pretty nice and genuine people on it too, like me. I mean, like, I like to party as much as the next guy. We've all had a bit of fun in our time. Like, we've all gotten sick in a taxi. We've all like fallen asleep on some randomer on the night link, or like we've all slut shopped so much that our trousers have ripped. Just me then, you know. Okay. I mean, Tinder's great in moderation, but it's something that Irish people really struggle with. I mean, just see like our issues with alcoholism or the Celtic Tiger or whatever. Maybe the Irish people are more at fault than the platform itself. Okay, so like I think Tinder is much better than the other dating sites as well, because like I think you can like people can contact you on it, like you initiate that kind of contact, like they're not like creeps like contacting you indirectly. I think like, you know, you both swipe right for each other, so there is that kind of mutual attraction there. I think that separates it from other dating sites. And then like if you also like Tinder, I'm sure there's also like loads of other apps that you'd like in particular I want to mention Cuddler. It's pretty great. It's like this app where it lets you find people near you and you can meet up and cuddle. And then so when you see someone who looks nice, you send them a cuddle request and then you do the deed. So, like, that's pretty great. That's pretty great. I'd encourage you all to get on that kind of thing ASAP. So like Tinder like caters to the vanity in our society. I think like that's the main point I want to like make here. I think it's like a byproduct of the way we are, and like the world has taught us to look at each other and ourselves. I mean, like we're kind of obsessed with ourselves. Well, I am anyway. I mean, like the number of selfies in the world, or like the number of selfie sticks, I think is a testament to that. And I suppose Tinder gives us an opportunity to kind of meet with people who are as obsessed with themselves as we are. And like I think like to clash with Nee's point about kind of women and like that was a good point, but it has like it has the unfortunate quality of being wrong. Like I think like bringing this debate into like, oh, women do this and men do that. I think like generalizing Tinder to that is like it devalues Tinder for me. And I think like, saying that men swipe right more or whatever, I don't think that's really fair. And I don't think like a women versus men attitude is conducive to a happy dating experience either online or in the real world, which is what we're all about. Okay. Also, to clash with Nee's point about the human connection, I mean, we need to look at the alternative here, which is clubbing, I suppose. And like, let's be honest, clubbing is a bit shit. I think like most of the time, like I think we trick ourselves into thinking clubbing, we're having a great time, but like really we just get so drunk that we're like kind of numbing ourselves into realizing what it's actually like. Like, I think it's important to realize how far we've come in terms of discos and nightclubs in the past. So like I want to do a little throwback, you know, it is Thursday after all, so a little TBT. So like to the glory days of teenage discos, you know, like to the likes of Wes or Blaze in Dublin or Pulse in Galway or City Hall in Cork. So like Junior Cert Wes, like they were really the days. Like I mean, like knacker drinking in the Radisson, getting absolutely binned on a bottle of West Coast Cooler or that brings me back. And then like, you know, Donny giving the young ones special treatment, or DJ Ross on the decks, like and like the walls drenched in sweat. Like those were the days. Like great men. Okay, so like those were the days of romance. No thanks. Like when all you needed was like a small gesture and like, will you shift me, mate? That was like that was romance. No thanks. So like Tinder, no thanks. Tinder like is trying to bring us back to those days of romance, like to simpler times when all you need is a small gesture, like by swiping right, and like a small pickup line of "Will you shift me, mate?" And then you get your date as well. And I think that's great. So like, and like nowadays things aren't even much better in clubs. I think like they can be pretty complicated places. For example, like I was in Dicey's on Monday and there were all these lads trying to pull, but none of them were realizing that the door actually said push. I think the rejection is less obvious on Tinder. I mean, like in a club, it's an environment, it's pretty clear if they like you or not, but at least on Tinder, you can kind of live in the false hope of whether or not you've been rejected. You can kind of hope they haven't seen you. So like, that's positive. I suppose that's something. So like, just to finish up, I hope you guys have a great time in Wheels tonight, and you're going to take strategically placed selfies to let all your Tinder matches know how you're having such a good time. Because I mean, like, what's the point of going out if you're not going to tell everyone how much fun you're having? Like, pretty much nothing. And so I'm also really enjoying the tension between Jenny and Lance back at the table here. I think they've matched on Tinder yet. And also, like, shout out to Claire and Nulon and the rest of Team Woo for their playlist. It's pretty great. I've matched with Claire on Tinder. I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious. So yeah, Tinder is pretty great.
you receive honor grading as junior freshman medicine, honor as you were also amazing. Would you like to waive your maiden rights?
I'll waive my rights. So like, Neve took the time to like start slagging off the Hamilton guys. I'm really a bit embarrassed because I was planning to open my speech by pointing out that I had seen some graphs on the internet about like how males and females are attracted to each other. And the thing is that like, it really worried me because like men get it pretty right this time. They sort of say like 50% get it average, but women think that 80% of men look worse than they actually do. They believe that 80% of men look worse than average. And like, I really have to ask, what chance do we have on Tinder if 80% of us just don't make that mark? Neve also really wanted me to point out to Colin that he was so busy talking that he just couldn't let her say that, like, without the memories of Wes, there would be a blank space. So, anyway, what I really want to talk to tonight is how we on the opposition regret the way that, like, we're commercializing our social lives. We regret the way that we're hiding behind a screen, and we just regret the way that we're being told that Tinder's like freeing us and that Tinder's going to liberate us. So like, what people don't realize about Tinder is it's like owned by the same people who bring you Match.com. It's in an industry that's worth 2.2 billion. Like, it's not this like friendly thing. It's not something that we actually really want, because when you sign up to Tinder, when I went to do my research for this today, like I noticed that Tinder wanted my name, my profile picture, my friends, pictures of my friends, everything I liked on Facebook, like all of my posts that were public. And I was like, why the hell are they interested in that? Like, if people are just swiping at your photo, like, why does that matter? And it's because, like, every bit of information you give them makes them money. And every single, like, bit of information, every swipe, every, like, comment is another bit of information on you, and it's more money for them. And what the real problem is that, like, when we're on the internet, we can't really, like, characterize what exactly, like, the business relationship we're in. Like, essentially, Tinder is like that friend you had at Wes that went over and says, will you shift my friend? Only this time you're paying that friend at Wes. And really, we think that's a bit sad. But no matter how we try to avoid it, when you're handing over, like, your information, if you're paying $3.99 a month for Tinder Pro to be able to match with people in Paris, even though you're not currently living there, or if you're over 30 and you're sad enough to pay something like €30 a month for Tinder, like you're definitely in a business relationship. That friend you had at Wes is now raking in like a few $100 grand a year. All because, like, he's not even good enough to ask people where they shift you. All he can ask them is where they talk to you. And he's doing a really shitty job at it. So what we're really saying is that we don't welcome the fact that someone's going to make money and they're doing nothing in particular at all. Because I kept on trying to come up with, like, how can you actually describe Tinder? And it's like, do you want to meet young, fun people in your area? And, like, would anyone sign up to a dating website with a slogan like that? Would anyone our age voluntarily go on something like that? And the thing is, no. Because Tinder is a load of hype. It's a load of marketing. And that brings me on to the second one, about, like, living behind a screen. Because they tell us, like, on their website, that Tinder is like real life, only better. So apparently Tinder isn't actually real life. And like, we could sort of see that, because like, we've been hearing all about the shift and the drift and the one night stand, and we think that's absolutely great. And like, if people want to shift and drift or have a one night stand, that's perfectly fine. The problem is, sort of when you start reading why people like Tinder, it doesn't really seem that they are that interested in shifting. It's just sort of confused, you know, like, oh, well, like, I really like the non-committal thing, but it's so hard to meet people when you work for 40 hours a day. And you know, it's like, I just can't go to parties anymore. So, like, yes, I do realize around 40 hours in a day. I'll try and work on my maths in future. So, like, when you look online, there's all of this stuff about, like, 83% of women in colleges, according to survey, actually prefer being in a long-term relationship. But like, I wasn't going to take their word for it, because there's loads of other stuff about like how we're the sluttiest generation that has ever lived. How like no one how about basically no one our age can hold down a long-term relationship. And like, I'm fairly sure that's not the case. So I wasn't going to believe that. So I went back onto the Tinder website, and they promised me that any swipe could change my life. And behind that, there was pictures like with a nice Instagram filter of a couple in Paris and another couple in England. And like, it just seemed a bit like a rom-com rather than this sort of like last-minute hookup thing. So what I sort of came to the realization is that Tinder actually probably isn't as much about hooking up for once as we want to say it is. It's not about just like this one-time thing. It's because we're just feel that we can actually go on it. Like, it's a dating website that's been marketed as acceptable. And that's because we can mock at it, we can laugh at it, we can say it's for the crack, but we find that an awful lot of people on it actually genuinely want something more from it. And like, we just don't think that's right. Because because like, apparently trying isn't very cool. Like, being too eager, it's just like, it's not sexy according to the internet. And and that's what was telling me was so great about Tinder, because I genuinely had to go and search what was so great about Tinder to try and figure out what they were going to say. And that was exactly what the internet told me. Trying isn't sexy. And I'm not even talking about like being clingy. I'm just talking about actually looking like you want a relationship. Apparently that's not cool anymore. So finally, like, we sort of don't like the idea that this is liberating, because you're entering like a business agreement with a company. We don't know how that actually sets your life free. We think this need to like be cool, and like this need to still like, we're not getting rid of any social constructs here. We're not changing anything. It's exactly the same as it used to be. So because of that, I'm not going to ask you to swipe right. I'm not going to ask you to swipe left. I'm just going to ask you not to swipe at all. Thank you very much.
And now we call on Dr. who is a politics, philosophy, economics, and sociology student. So Rana, as it is your first time speaking in the chamber, would you like to wave your maiden signs?
Hell yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen of the Philosophical Society, honorable chairs, distinguished timekeepers, and fellow drunkards, I'd like to start off by this evening by kind of talking about a couple of points and kind of basically reframing and conceptualizing the way that we view Tinder and associated apps as well. So if you ask most people what they think about Tinder, their response will most likely, most uniformly be negative. They say it's shallow, they say it's sleazy, they say it's addictive, and possibly even dangerous. I'm sorry, that's probably my fault. Depending on how many people, or depending on how many Jaeger bombs they've had before actually starting up the app, they'll talk about like the swiping interface is gamified online dating and it's ruined females' self-esteem, and basically like there's a whole bunch of ranting feminists in the room, not including myself, about how the hookup app has encouraged rapid promiscuity and moral laxity. So firstly, let's talk about the rise of Tinder and how it's basically kind of like, it could kind of be the start of something more innovative, right? So in terms of objectifying individuals, as like the opposition's kind of highlighted, don't we do this anyway? I mean, shit, I'm standing in front of you guys. I'm swiping left and right all over here. Come on, like, I mean, this whole like this quick-fire judgment process isn't actually as shallow as it seems. We have types and instincts, right? If we're attracted to somebody, we know we're immediately attracted to somebody. You don't need to, like, it's basically an extension of human response. Like, or we eliminate the consideration of enjoying people's personalities rather than a sexy ass haircut. Like, no, we're not. So take, for example, these classic matchmaking websites as the opposition highlighted. So like such as mindless profile browsing, it's really, really ineffective, right? This is trying to basically replace this whole concept of like website dating and so on, but for people who are more introverted. We're forgetting about these people who are somewhat marginalized in the whole dating scene because
shit, they don't have anywhere to go. They're too shy to go out. They're socially anxious individuals. And after like brooding over a profile, like, you know, looking, they find like more and more reasons not to contact a person. It's intimidating for people. Rather than this quick fire method that's like, you know, it just uses the immediate engagement mechanism. It facilitates the conversation, helps people to find it difficult to socialize. So secondly, I'll take a moment. The intersectionality issues, basically, they're addressed like pretty heavily like in this as well. So like a positive factor of the app that people have kind of like, we decide that goes largely unnoticed as well, is like, basically it's the ability of our society to get rid of these gender-based stigmas, you know? So the responsibility of the match lies on both parties as opposed to one over the other. And like, there's nobody who should make an advance first. You know, you receive a message, you're like, bing, you know, like you guys should both try to talk to each other equally. So it suggests that it basically like, essentially this links with our traditional concepts of dating. It's being challenged by like a small and quirky gesture, which could actually be quite enormous in the end, you know? So there's less of an avenue to sit and stew on normal dating websites with the issue of like lack of distance and transparency, because people have to connect to their Facebook profiles. So it basically, it kind of, it has less kind of fake profiles on there as well. There's like a large framework of security there. That's why it attracts such a large demographic, and it kind of nurses the whole concept, which makes it more comfortable and appealing for people that attracts a larger demographic people. So it attends to more people's preferences. So more practically, it's basically, think of it as virtual speed dating, right? So you're going to a pub and you're going to approach someone with a cheesy pickup line, you know, and instead, like, it's the same thing you would use on the apps, except you can't guarantee that the other party's in the mood or even consenting to be hit on. So with this app, you basically have two parties that are agreeing to the indirect terms and conditions of being hit on. So basically, if we reframe this issue into an issue of control, and as the opposition keep highlighting that women are being subjected, it's much worse in real life. So users have 100% control over what they want to display to the public. I mean, if I'm going to take a really sexy selfie with a pout, you know, like that's what I'm going to have online, and that's what people can see of me, right? I can dominate my personal image on the app, whereas you can't actually control the way that people see you in real life. You can't control the way that you're being checked out in a manner, right? So people are checking you out in a manner that you want to be checked out in. So this leads on to my third point of evolutionary needs. So like any successful internet service, Tinder enables people to fulfill some basic evolutionary needs that are never going to go away. It's a pretty important point. We tend to overestimate the impact of technology on human behavior, and more often than not, it's human behavior that drives technological change to begin with. It changes and explains successes and failures. So just like Facebook, Tinder, LinkedIn, it enables people to get along, albeit in a somewhat infantile and sexually inappropriate way. It also like enables us to kind of get ahead and nourish our competitive instincts by testing and maximizing our dating potential. Yeah, I'll take you now.
Okay, so you talked about hiding behind a screen. It makes it easier for introverts, but would you not agree that like it's a method by which people can harass people completely unchecked to the point at which like dating sites like Tinder become like a facilitator for like systemic misogyny?
Not really. I mean, this is what I'm trying to say is it's exactly linking onto your question now. See, Tinder is basically a reflection of our our actual dating life. So anything that would happen on Tinder wouldn't it's not like it's not necessarily not going to happen in real life. If it happens in real life, it's going to happen in Tinder as well. So that doesn't exactly stop. So like it's pretty embarrassing to kind of confess of using Match.com. I've mentioned it again. Tinders are proud to kind of like demo the app at dinner parties. It's a social thing. I mean, it's all a bit of crack basically. So this bridges the gap between digital and physical dating. So it enables users to experience instant gratification as well, which is like a really new thing in our society, and which is something that we constantly need. And it's fundamentally a positive thing. It chips away at the social taboo of meeting individuals in an alternative way. I mean, with the fast driving technology these days, I mean, it's absolutely fine to meet people because everyone's so freaking busy all the time. So I'm going to talk about like the awkward concept that romance is dead. Yes. So this isn't actually a cynical statement. Let's face it. I mean, if it wasn't for Valentine's Day sex and engagement in the industry, we would have officially moved beyond romanticism by now. The realities of the dating world could not be more different. People are time deprived, and you know they prioritize their careers over relationships. So, I mean, if we think about it, just we look at it on a really general level, people find love in the strangest places. Like, look at Facebook, for example, right? People are going to go through your profile. It's like examine your really neatly packaged life and make a decision whether they want to send you a friend request or not. So you're being objectified anyways. It's absolutely inevitable. So, lastly, taking all these points into consideration, I'm basically going to expand this onto like a larger social landscape, right? As a person that doesn't actually use Tinder, but I've seen a lot of people use Tinder. Here we go. I know. Right. So the key word being that there's a lot of options, right? Options is basically the main thing that stands out here. Like the option of being able to connect with people within a close proximity makes it safer. On the other hand, you're still able to go out and have a few Jaeger bombs with your friends on a night out without, like, if Tinder fails to satisfy your match, it doesn't actually replace your social life. That's what we're trying to basically pose the opposition. So it doesn't cripple your social life. The app consumes very little time. The issue here is not from setting up to actually navigating your, your matches or whatever. The way in which people choose to use it could potentially be time consuming. So it's not the app that's time consuming, it's the way people are using it. And stop drinking so much, for fuck's sake. On a more general level, the ambiguity of dating basically highlights the fact that there is no monolithic dating practice, ladies and gentlemen. People can unite by the desire to connect with each other, but some are looking for sex and others looking for love, and you can't replace that. So, to sum up, we pinpointed how it could be evolutionary starting points, mechanisms of how it addresses intersectionality, and it echoes our physical reality. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we praise the great rise of Tinder. I beg you to propose.
We'd like to thank Ralph for the fine speech, and now we call on Ashley Foster, Senior Freshman in German Economics, to continue the case for the side opposition.
Much love. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the House, ladies and gentlemen. A Tinder match is just a boyfriend you haven't met yet. At least that was my policy up until the point at which I realised that Tinder has in fact ruined my life. Okay, so far. Brilliant. Okay. So Rada brought us some like real serious stuff about like how why Tinder's like really, really good. Like they're really good points, well done. Like I'm not going to respond to them because like I took way too much advantage of the table wine. During the speech that I wrote. And like no rebuttal's going to happen. Points of clash don't matter. It's not a stop anyway. So like you see, ladies and gentlemen, like Tinder is a drug and I'm an addict. Like I remember that first hit, it was glorious. Like I was immediately hooked, swiping right to any potential bae that came my way, waiting for that next match. Oh, it was so exciting. So like each match making me more desperate for him. Next thing I knew, I was 400 matches deep, halfway through this committee and making my way onto Phil Council. Where did I go? So like, I couldn't get enough. Yes.
Did we or did we not match on Tinder?
Okay, I'll have a minute on how you broke my fucking heart. On that point, like, I'm just not gonna lie, like, I wasn't on Tinder for like research purposes. Like, I love Tinder. It's so gas. Everyone just embrace Tinder because it's gas. Oh shit, wrong side of the mission. Don't embrace Tinder. It's not gas. It's really perfect. So like, what about this? So I had things to do. Like, I had real people to see. I had 3 exams that I was meant to sit today, but instead I sat around swiping right. That was gas, not really. I'm gonna fail my degree. So like, since we started this debate, ladies and gentlemen, I've been like live Tindering and matched 6 people and sent out 4 messages. Live Tindering as we speak, so if there's any replies, I'll let you all know. So like, I stole my title from my first and only point from like a Daily Mail article. So that's why Tinder ruins lives. So like, my life pre-Tinder was like actually all right. Like I thought it was like okay. Probably didn't know the world all that well, but like, unfortunately, it's taken a rapid turn for the worse. Like with every creepy message, every semi-naked moment, and like that time I infamously matched Stephen James Barr. Like Tinder's the reason I probably spent my reading week swiping right when I had like 3 exams. Tinder's probably the reason why I'll never have a functioning relationship again because I can just think I can like block them. That doesn't exist in real life. So like Tinder is probably the reason like why my life is like slowly deteriorating. That's the word I'm looking for. So it's probably also the cause of like hunger, poverty, and the patriarchy, but I'm just not going to get into that. I don't really care at this point. So like anyway, back to Tinder and all that gas. So 6 6 ways Tinder has ruined my life, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you'll love them all. So, like, first of all, I'm sure you all know the story by now. I've been pretty vocal about it. Matching that certain TA on Tinder. Carries the Constitution around him, yeah, that one. Anyway, and then finding out, even worse, that I wasn't the first gal in the GMB he pursued. Shout out to my gal Kerry. Also finding out our love lives are like way too in sync for mine. So confirmed. Second of all, the time I revealed to my mother that I was on Tinder, like that was really awkward. Like the look of disgust, revulsion, and like just like pure disappointment. And she said to me, like, if you think that's what it takes to get yourself a boyfriend, you do you. Fantastic woman. We should all meet her. So, like, thirdly, like my Tinder habits being discussed as a result of number 2 over the Christmas dinner table, and having that explained to like my great aunt, she did not approve. And like fourthly, like matching the love of my life from when I was like 14, and like he was beautiful back then, and realizing that like puberty hasn't done him very much good. Like now feeling really sad. That was awful. Fifthly, that time I went to Dicey's and some guy told me that I'd matched him on Tinder. Like a few weeks later, like ladies and gentlemen, I have 400 matches on Tinder. I don't know who you are. Everyone needs to calm down. But I did have to spend 40 minutes explaining to this poor guy that like just because I matched him on Tinder doesn't mean he gets to shift me. Yet at the end of the 40 minutes, he still leaned in. It was really awkward, had to run away. It wasn't bad enough that I was spending my night in Dicey's, I had to deal with that thing. So, like, 60, like finally when I match a member of the proposition, cough, convict. And he tells me, wait for it, ladies and gentlemen, that I should probably consider changing my profile picture on Tinder if I wanted to attract more boys. So like, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, like Tinder is this like strange brand of social media, like totally unique to itself. Like I'll tell us why, like how it's great that it's not taboo. Like I think social media should just be taboo in general. Like I don't see why it's socially acceptable to like swipe right or left to someone. Like these are real people. This is something you definitely forget while you're on Tinder, and like that's a fucking terrible thing when they're like matched to you on the basis of like proximity. You live in this like false consciousness, debating that like you can say whatever you want to them and it never gets back. Hence why I like let my friends use my Tinder at their will. So like when some beautiful looking guy who shall remain nameless messaged me like, hey X, the reply sent out from my Tinder account that was probably screenshotted was literally saying, how do you feel about anal? So ladies and gentlemen, for those of us who just like can't get enough, for those of us who are like Claire and Elon over there who have to get the bus every day just so they can get those extra few swipes in. Just got a phone out now, guys. You should also like, for those of us who will never be able to understand the dynamics of a real relationship or how to talk to someone outside the realms of the internet, I'm so proud to oppose.
We would like to thank Aisling for her wonderful and very likeness. And are bringing us in to the clash of the types. Who's gonna win, guys? In the, a couple against each other that I didn't do deliberately at all. Welcome Jenny, who's junior freshman, history and politics. So Jenny, it's also your first time speaking in the chamber, so would you like to wave your maiden's rights?
I'm happy to. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, in this age of technology and progress and innovation, we should embrace anything that makes our complicated lives simpler. When navigating the world of dating and romance is already so difficult and convoluted, as everybody has pointed out, thanks to that, why would we condemn a service that streamlines the process for us? No one in this debate tonight has claimed that Tinder is flawless, nor that it is the only way to find romance, but we believe that it is a completely viable option. Whether you're looking for something serious or a quick fling, you'll eventually manage to swipe right for that special someone. It's that degree of choice and ease that is essentially what makes Tinder so popular, and why we feel we should definitely support it. There's been a lot of areas of the debate that I want to touch on, so I'm not going to go with any specific rebuttal. So I'm just going to start into one of my points, which is something that Rana touched on and something that needs disputed, and why Tinder is good for certain elements of society that would otherwise feel sort of excluded from the dating life. Tinder has a number of elements that allows people who struggle with traditional styles of dating to explore their sexualities with ease and safety. Take, for example, somebody who suffers from social anxiety. Typical venues for meeting people like clubs or bars are literally terrifying processes. Dark lights, lots of alcohol, people shifting in corners. It's not something you want to approach if you're uneasy with partners. The person is on their guard and out of their comfort zone, and that's not exactly the mood you want to be in for flirting. Tindering from the safety of your own room at 3 o'clock in the morning with a bottle of wine is perfect for exploring your boundaries at your own pace, with the option to unmatch always reassuringly backing up everything you do. When first entering the chaos that is the world of dating, you really want to have as much control as possible, and that is sorely lacking when you're in a public place with no exit strategy. Environments like clubs have their purposes, don't get me wrong, but Tinder offers the unique option of a calm and collected conversation without any pressure of commitment. As Aisling said, the icon is a flame, not a heart, guys. This isn't eHarmony. You don't want to find your true love. If you do, mention it in your bio and they'll come looking for you, but otherwise, most people know it's probably just for a fling. Tinder is focused on fun interactions with no strings attached, and sometimes that's all you need. Another group who benefits from this are people who'd like to remain anonymous or are exploring certain aspects of their sexuality they don't want to publicly declare. In our society, being unsure of your sexuality can haunt you as you continue on, because any action you take probably will follow you. So there's viable reasons why people want to hide behind a screen and want to just explore something without a lot of commitment. Tinder offers an avenue of exploration that is less likely to have negative consequences than meeting up with somebody in a club. You can't really do that by yourself. You have to involve other people, and sometimes you just want to do something privately for yourself. These benefits also apply to the greater Tinder community, and I would say that contributes to Tinder's popularity greatly. We say that anything that allows people more access to romance and sex is a great thing that should be celebrated. Okay, so one of the main points of clash in this debate has been objectification and whether it's inherently good or bad. We on Side Prop say that it's something that's human nature. It's not something that is inherently evil, because as has been pointed out, there are biological reasons why some people are attracted and some people don't. We say that Tinder streamlines the process for us. You know what you're signing up for when you get in. You get this, and the important thing is you get to also present the version of yourself that you want to. You have the power to say that I like that photo of me, and I think that I want to share it with people, and that's what I want people to do. We keep getting condemned for being the selfie generation, but what's wrong with people being a little more confident in themselves and being able to say, yeah, that's an attractive picture of me, let's show it to the world and see if other people agree. Clubs were brought up a lot, and we're saying that in the exact same situation exists in club, only then you don't know who's watching, you don't know who's looking at you. On Tinder, you know that the chances are you'll only interact with people that you choose to, and that's totally fine. Also, Neve, we don't feel that Tinder is necessary for replacing like the heartfelt romance you're searching for. If you really want to find your one true love, like hang out around the GMB, they're probably here. That's actually nice. We all love you, don't we? But sure. Okay, so we also want to point out something that's kind of been avoided about how Tinder helps you broaden your horizons. Often, everybody knows that social group of people who kind of hover together and are super incestuous, and they don't seem to realize that people exist outside of their group of 6 friends. There are a lot of guilty faces in the room, you know who you are. We say that Tinder allows you to kind of move out of that social circle and explore people. You can set whatever geographical barriers you like. You can pay the extra money and go to Paris if you want, which we think should totally be something that happened. We didn't know that was a thing. We say that being able to explore boundaries and to push yourself out of your comfort zone whilst remaining safe and not actually flying to Paris to try and get a hookup is probably a good thing. Okay, I want to end on an uplifting story of hope, because there have been a lot of horror stories and we think that there are some pretty good prop stories. And this also ties into my whole broadens horizon thing. I have a friend who was on Tinder after breaking up with a boyfriend of 4 years and feeling really down about herself. And she went on and she swiped with this guy called Renee. Renee had some really attractive photos, and as most people know, she took it with a grain of salt because Tinder can lie and can lie a lot. I'll side with you there, opposition. Renee ended up being a Brazilian model over in Ireland who was studying English. And I kid you not, they met up for 3 dates and were a couple. They're still together today, and I will literally, every time he goes out as a group, people swoon and wonder, how did these two meet each other? And I'm saying they're not going to meet each other without Tinder, ladies and gentlemen. Tinder is just an avenue for people to meet and be happy and have romance, or have a fling, or even just have a little chat and have a little flirt and boost your self-esteem when you're having a bad night. Ladies and gentlemen, why would we condemn that? Why wouldn't we celebrate that? We think people should be allowed to be happy and be allowed to have fun. There's a couple problems with it, we'll grant you that, but those are problems with greater society as a whole. We don't think it's our burden to prove that people should be perfect and that they should never be rude to people or anything like that. We think that Tinder is just another avenue for people to have a bit of fun, meet new friends, and possibly more. So with all of those reasons, we beg you all to propose.
We'd like to thank Jenny for her speech, and now we're going to finish the debate beside opposition because Amanda Stenson, who is a junior freshman role. Before Mass gets to waive or not with his rights, I'll just say that there's the opportunity for somebody to make one voice speech and decide opposition to this motion. So that will be a 40-minute speech that will follow into the main debate. So if anybody is kind of interested in doing that, please throw it up to the floor or write it on the paper and send it in what you want. So, Max. One of your Tinder matches is going to give you a voice speech. Okay, so Max, as it's your first time speaking in the chamber, you have waiving rights. Would you like to waive those rights?
I will waive those. Okay, so Madam Speaker, I'd like to go into a bit of a rebuttal before I get to my substantive points, and boy, they're substantive. So I'd like to go back to Jenny's last story, this very uplifting story of Renee, who is drop dead gorgeous, I will admit. This man is 6'5" or something. He's like tanned. He is a Brazilian model. And yeah, they have a really good relationship. But the step that was necessary for those two to come together was this man being a Brazilian model. We think that clearly highlights the objectification on our side. Like, Tinder is about aesthetics. It's about, which is going to be my main point of substantive. Like, I'm going to raise another point that hasn't been raised yet. This is a point about crippling loneliness, okay? As has been brought up recently on my Facebook, a lot of the pictures of me from about 5 years ago started to come to light, okay? It was a dark time for Baby Manus, okay? Baby Manus loved and still loves Fall Out Boy, but he kind of showed it a little more. Baby Manus was chubby, Baby Manus had a long fringe, and Baby Manus was just full of angst. And when Baby Manus went to Wes, he had a bad time because he experienced the negative side of Tinder. What happens when you're ugly? Baby Manus walls of Wes, shiftless and alone. And that's what happens when you go on Tinder. As I found out, I have yet to tell this to people, because when we were all gathering around for our speeches, we're like, oh, have you been on Tinder? No, I haven't. Oh, this will be great. No one knows what Tinder is like. I have been on Tinder. I was on Tinder in the first 2 weeks of college, and in the space of those 2 weeks, I got 4 matches in total. That's go on, hit me up. Perhaps one of the reasons this was is because as it loads your Facebook profile, I accidentally loaded the very first profile I have of me as an angsty teenager. But that said, if I was still, Jesus Christ. Okay. So if I was actually looking like that, and I've seen people who do look like that, what happens to them on Tinder? Where are their potential Tinder bays? Okay, Jenny brought her Tinder bay example. I'm going to bring mine. I have a friend-in-law who shall remain nameless, but he's from the north of Ireland. This man has brought me shocking stories of Tinder. This man who has over 1,400 Tinder matches, okay, told me about a time he spent up in the north, and he got a Tinder request to hook up really casually. And this man, he couldn't actually go, but for when he looked down, considering the amount of MDMA he'd taken, his legs seemed to stretch on forever. And so he had to unfortunately decline this invitation for casual sex. And my point is, these people are on Tinder, okay? These people exist and they're shit. So on to kind of like my points of Flash. I think the main point of Flash I've highlighted is that this side think Tinder is great and we think it's kind of shit. And why is it shit? It's shit because it prioritizes aesthetics over like actual substance. Like this kind of objectification leads to this aesthetic caste system almost, where you can't really break out. Like the only interaction you get, and if you want to call it real interaction, is if you've deemed them to be attractive. Like you only get to talk to someone if you also think like if they think you're attractive and you think you're attractive. No, this is bad because it adds to the objectification that exists under the status quo. Like you can say that it empowers women to also objectify men, and that's true. But is there any real benefit to that? Like I have a friend here from my old school, and what we used to do, like it was a lad school, and we used to get up to pretty laddish things. And what we do in our lab times is we gather around people's phones as a group, and we'd objectify the women on that. And I didn't realize it until now, but in that time, I was the physical embodiment of the patriarchy. Our group existed purely to objectify the people on Tinder. And I also have another story of a person that's on my side, but I'm still going to say it anyway. Poor Neve Eggleston. Or maybe it's not Neve Eggleston, maybe it's someone else. We got out of our lecture yesterday, and she was on Tinder doing research. And she and I and a couple of other people had hearty chuckle at a man, purely because his name was Ham. This poor man, Brazilian model or not, was struck down because his name was Ham. And like, that's our side are even saying that. Like, there's just so much objectification that goes on. Yeah, I can.
Is like your main objection to Tinder that it reminds you that people exist who are less attractive than you?
Basically, kind of. No, I was that ugly person. I was that unattractive person. So. Okay. So once you get through once you get through this like matching up stage, it doesn't even get any better. Like a lot of the time, people just send straight up invitations for sex. Like it can get really crude, as I pointed out with my friend from law who shall remain nameless. Like I'm surprised by the amount of times I've seen it happen that people just ask really, really blatant things. Like my own side asked me to POI Jenny if she liked something that was mentioned in the debate before. Like those two people were on Tinder. That's the kind of people you're dealing with. But I was surprised when I found myself doing it, and I was just a victim of circumstance. Like I didn't really ask for this; it just kind of happened. Like the whole system of Tinder is like getting as attractive as you can get, and then secondarily seeing how their personality is. It creates a narrative of superficiality, and then prevents people from interacting with anyone that's ugly, which Conan might think is a good thing, but I don't. So like, think about it. Tinder only exists to match attractive people together. Like, when you are swiping and you see a Brazilian model first, and then you see like a normal person, you're gonna think that they're like disastrously ugly or something. And that's what Tinder perpetuates. Unless you can live up to the standards of Renee, the drop-dead Brazilian model, you aren't gonna get anywhere. And I didn't get anywhere too. So for those reasons, I urge you to swipe left on this motion.
And all of the speakers thought it was a really excellent debate, guys. Well done. So now, pretty much the special request of Ashley Foster. We're going to have a source speech from Mr. Daniel Strunk.
Excellent. Hello, my name is Daniel Strunk. I come from the land of freedom. My friends here in Ireland call me Uptown Strunk, or as someone mentioned me in today's debate, I am that TA. Tinder is one of very few things in life that I love, including free market capitalism and my family. Now, you might ask, why am I qualified to speak in tonight's debate at all? I like to think that I'm a bit of a hookup culture expert, personally. I wrote my honors thesis at Duke University on it, and it's what allowed me to graduate with first-class honors, believe it or not. If any of you are interested, I will post it on Facebook later. Tonight, I'm actually going on 2 Tinder dates. I had to reschedule them. It would have been 3, but Ashling rejected me. So yes, I am a TA, and one of the scariest moments of my entire existence thus far at Dublin has been matching one of my students. And I sat there petrified in my room, wondering what action I should take, and finally decided that the only suitable course was to actually email Gail McElroy, the professor in the political science department, about this. And while I did this, I had to explain to her what Tinder was. It was an interesting circumstance, and I said, look, I matched my student. It was super awkward. It was kind of accidental. I don't know. Do I need to not grade her papers anymore? Is this a conflict of interest? Blah, blah, blah. And she, Gail McElroy, actually endorsed Tinder in a response saying, it's okay, Daniel. Dublin's a small town. This stuff happens, and you probably had many similar interests, which is why you matched and were able to converse and blah, blah, blah. So if anyone's wondering, Tinder is not just for young people. There are other people that like and approve of this idea with age and wisdom. I want to give, essentially, though, something that I don't think has been thoroughly argued tonight, and that's that Tinder is really, really wonderful for experimentation, okay? No one's brought this point up, but it's great for a guy like me to use Tinder to essentially get data back as to the best manner in which I can engage the opposite sex. So here are some of the things that I've actually learned from my Tinder experiences, and this is why I'm a fan of Tinder. I think it's a learning process. 1, if you list that you are a Slytherin in your bio, you will get more matches. That is true. If you have a photo of you with the American flag, you will get less matches. If you mention that you are a libertarian, you will get 0 matches for the rest of your time in Dublin. And if you, oh yeah, point of inquiry.
So, somebody who loves freedom yourself, how comfortable are you handing over your data to a massive corporation?
like Tinder.
Okay, so this keeps me up at night because I honestly think Carrie has enough information on me via our Tinder conversations to sink my entire political career. I will maybe never be a U.S. Senator because of Carrie. No, this bothers me, but the difference is, in at least my libertarian sense, we're consenting to the use of Tinder and the sharing of data, whereas with the state, oftentimes our usage of data is not consensual. So anyway, back to my initial point. It's great for experimentation and gathering of data. And last thing, this debate has occurred almost as if the people that are creeps on Tinder are not creeps in the real world. So Tinder is wonderful because it's an excellent filtering device. Clubbing, as Con McCarrick brought up, he was excellent. Excellent speech. And he brought up clubbing is an insane institution that serves no purpose. I do not think that anyone can rationally believe that clubbing is a good thing. But the difference between Tinder and clubbing is that the guy that sends you a terribly mean message on Tinder, or dare I say a terribly awful photo, you would never know that when he goes up to shift you in the club. You have the option to unmatch him on Tinder, but you might not necessarily know who you're shifting with in the club and the level to which their depravity reaches. Tinder is an excellent source to weed out the terrible people, so you do not end up going on dates with them. For all these reasons, I would like to close, but before I close, I really would like to dedicate this speech to the hissed women that I've matched. Carrie, Dee, Ashling, Izzy, Annabelle, you have a special place in my heart. Claire, I still hold out hope that I will match you one day. And with that, I very, very proudly support this motion. And could I end with the shot? Would that be nice? I would like a shot. To Tinder, ladies and gentlemen.
Could I actually have a timer? Alright, so I joined Tinder for the sole reason of becoming part of the glam squad, which Ashley here told me I needed a few main things to join. First off, I needed to be glam. Second of all, I needed to join Tinder. And thirdly, I needed to have an Instagram account. I still haven't got around to getting the Instagram account, but I feel like I'm on track to get into the glam squad. So I'm quite happy about that. So first off, I'd like to just point out that like Manus here, I don't actually have that many matches on Tinder, so it hasn't done wonders for sort of my social confidence. And I'm not sure if it's because 3 of my profile pictures on it are of me debating, or if it's because my bio is I like long walks on the beach with my girlfriend until the LSD wears off and I realize I'm dragging a stolen mannequin around a Tesco parking lot. You know, I've actually been drinking too much to pay too much attention to what's been going on in the debate, so I don't have that much rebuttal. But it also means I don't actually have that many points. So I'm just going to tell a bunch of anecdotes, hopefully get a few shots out of it, and hope you guys realize that I don't have any real sort of substance to the speech. So first off, like on this issue of sort of like social anxiety. So I've never actually been to Wes, but I did go. I did go to a first. I did. Oh, class! My first shot. There's gonna be a few more of these, I hope. Thank you. So I've never actually been to Wes, but I did go to a first-year disco
organized by my school. And at this point, I'd never actually gotten the shift before. So I met a friend of mine at this disco. Said hi, introduced myself, and went about on my business, dancing with a few of the lads, too scared to talk to any girls. And then later on in the night, two of her friends came up to me and were like, hey, we saw you talking to her earlier, would you like to shift her? And me, being my sort of sad, 13-year-old self, not knowing how to talk to girls or how to deal with girls, essentially said no and ran away because I was too scared. The problem is, though, I don't actually think Tinder solves for this for social anxiety in general. So when I joined Tinder about a week ago, I matched with one of the 3 girls that I've actually matched with so far on Tinder. And I tried to have a real genuine conversation with her. And obviously, being a man, the first thing I would think to talk about with her was feminism. Because I'm a man, so obviously I know a lot about feminism. But of course, when I tried to have this conversation with her about feminism, she basically just ignored my messages and didn't really care. So I don't think you get those real discussions and then those real genuine conversation out of Tinder that would actually help improve your social anxiety, when you actually realize that maybe people are only matching with you because they find your Tinder profile picture attractive. We still say that can cause social anxiety insofar as they don't want to have a real and genuine conversation with you. So it's for that reason then that I don't think Tinder actually solves that problem that we've heard about through proposition, that Tinder can make you feel a bit better about yourself. And I was going to talk a bit more about social anxiety and stuff, but unfortunately Manus was the last speaker and he actually stole all the stuff I was going to say. So for that reason I'm gonna end there, and I beg you all to oppose. Thank you.
Revelation that sometimes women don't want to talk about them. So without further ado then, let's put the motion to the floor. So could all those in favour of the motion please say aye? Aye. Could all those against the motion please say nay? Nay. I think the nays have it. So if you'd like to fill out your return sheets, okay, then there's a couple that on there. Next week's debate is this house for science and treaty in association with the lovely DU History Society. And if you'd like to speak in that, there's a sign-in outside on the board and also online on disclosure. So tomorrow is the Phil Speaks Poem, which is one of our most exciting and just generally wonderful events. So if anyone wants to come along to that to help volunteer, that would be more than welcome. And just on a final note, I really just want to say well done to all of the speakers, all of Team Tread, all of Team Sec, all of Team Live, all of Team Red, Team Alby and Team Woo, who are literally next door working away in a reception. You guys were fantastic. This exec debate was incredible. Well done to you all.
Should we keep our glasses or you hovering? Can we just leave it? We do cheesy handshake. You know
Get some sounds good.